'Twas randomness that brought me to the album Shh, Don't Jinx It by Sugar Pit. You see, I got a DM on Instagram. And listen, I get a lot of DMs on Instagram from artists and musicians. I try to listen to them all. I don't. If I never respond to you, it's not because I don't care about you or you make bad art. I just don't have the time, right? But I got this message. It was a little bit different than some of the ones that I got. It said this. This is from Sugar Pit. Hey, what's up, man? I am Sugar Pit, and I just put out my debut records on Atlantic. So, hearing Atlantic is like, okay, so this person is signed to a major label. That does matter to a certain extent. That does show a certain amount of, I don't know, polish or track record. Recorded/produced it all myself in my bedroom. Okay, well, I'm interested in that. I'm actually in my funk basement with the remnants of my music career where I used to record music all by myself in my bedroom before bedroom pop even existed. It's kind of Talking Heads meets egg punk. Anyway, check it out if you want. Thanks, man. Have a great day. My name is Skye with a smiley face emoji. So, I kind of get that. I sort of think, well, that's interesting. Like, I don't usually get people on major labels messaging me. And then literally at the exact same time that I read that message, I'm looking at my Instagram and Reels pops up with a video by Bluster or Bluester or Blustre. I don't know how you pronounce it. It's Blustre. If you don't know him, he's a very cool, interesting, young music reviewer guy on Instagram. He does this whole thing based on genres and trying to figure out genres, but his music reviews are generally good. He's a very sort of likable young guy who's clearly doing his work, and as a hopefully likable, maybe somewhat smarmy, middle-aged guy myself, / old guy, I'm trying to pay attention to, who are the younger people in this space that are doing good work. I just recently featured JF Musics as well. I mean, I say featured. These people have like hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram. So, but still, maybe if you're watching me, you don't know them, right? So anyways, there's young people doing good stuff on YouTube. And then we have this album by Sugar Pit, which is a young person doing good stuff in music, right? So I checked it out. I watched Bluestre's whole review, and I watched it pretty carefully. It's interesting the way he does it because he does it in like under a minute, and he's able to communicate a lot of the information I'm going to be communicating here. It starts off with the sentence "punk is alive," which is interesting because when you hear this album, you don't immediately think punk, okay? And he describes this Sugar Pit fella, this Kian. Boy, now I don't even know if it's Kian or Kian. I don't know how to pronounce anybody's name. Has just got an aura around him, and that's definitely true. I can see the A&Rs at Atlantic Records watching his YouTube videos or whatever it is that he does, and just go, cigar, I gotta say, I think this kid's got it. I don't know. We thought that before. We've been wrong and we've been right, but I gotta tell you, Phyllis, this time this kid's got it. We gotta sign him, and sign him small. There's no such thing as a big record contract anymore. But he would have said sign him big 20 years ago. And he just has whatever the kind of punk lead singer energy that you want, whatever kind of Iggy Popness you could hope for in a lead singer of a punk band. That's what he has. Blustre talks about how he recorded the video in the DMV and just sort of shows off this whole general energy. And I was in. I was in from watching this little video and from getting that message. And then I thought about the message. The message, Art, dude, the message. And he said egg punk. Egg punk? Hey, I'm cool. Hey, I got 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. You could join one of them if you hit that button. You know what I'm saying? You smash that like bucket. Do all that stuff. AVAA means awesome videos always. I'm the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor. That's what I am. But did he say egg punk? Because I don't know what that means. Okay? I have to play it cool. Oh yeah, egg punk. I know what that means. I'm a music cricket. So what do I do? What do you do when you hear there's a microgenre that you've never heard of? Don't go to Wikipedia first. You know where you go first? You type into Google, Bluster, and then the name of the genre, because he's going through as many genres as he can in describing them. Oh, thank God the heater turned off. Thank God. I'm recording in my basement because there's literally nowhere else in my life that I can record this video. I cannot be on the porch. It is raining and it's too cold. I cannot be upstairs. Even here, I told my 16-year-old, walk carefully, I'm recording a video, and she's clod stomping around up there. It's okay. And here comes the heater again, but that's why I'm down in the funk basement. I've got nowhere else to be, so just rock with me, all right? It's DIY, baby, right? It's like the spirit of this music. So you watch Bluster's genre-phobic thing, and this is how he describes what egg punk is. Unlike most punk, it is mostly inspired by Devo. Does not take itself seriously, sillier vocals, and more weird instrumentation. Okay, now, what does that mean? That means that Professor Skye is happy, because Professor Skye is a huge Devo fan, and I have been for a long time, ever since. You might think, greatest hits. Oh, hell no. We're talking ever since Greatest Misses. Even before then. There's a song called Speed Racer. My older brother loves the song Speed Racer. I'm your doctor and here's the bill. We used to listen to that song all the time. And if you're interested in Devo, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to give you at some point during this video the one song you have to listen to, okay? But this is what a great band they are. Their greatest hits are fine, but actually their greatest misses are better. You know, if you go to maybe their most famous album, Are We Not Men, you know, this is a very strong, well-made album. But the real thing, if you really want to get into the truth about Devo, you got to get to the Mongoloid years, okay? This is when they were recording live in Ohio, okay? When they were just a little band in Ohio. And it's all punk. That's what, like, they were a punk band the whole time. You know, the meme with the guy on the moon that says, oh, Devo was punk, and then the guns at the back of the spaceman's head for some reason. I don't get that meme. I don't understand you skibbity toilets. I don't get it. I don't get that meme, but maybe I do, because Devo was punk the whole time. You hear that in their early work before they started using synthesizers, or before synthesizers were the center, and that's what makes them such an amazingly great band, is that they have that punk energy while being the absolute definition of new wave and post-punk. They're kind of cynicism that's mixed with humor, okay? Cynicism and humor and joy and anger. Oh my God. So anyways, the idea that there's an entire strand of music made by young people these days, young people, not me people, young people, listening to Devo and understanding and getting, because, hey, when you were my age, okay, if you talk to a boomer, a Gen Xer like me, they're just going to say, oh, Devo, whip it, ha ha ha. That's all they're going to say. They say, oh, Devo, whip it, ha ha ha. That's what they're going to say. You can cut that up and make that into a beat if you want. Oh, Devo, whip it, ha ha ha. That's all they're going to say. Oh, the hats, I remember that. Okay, that's all they're going to say. Because the MTV generation flattened Devo. And you had to be a real one to go deeper and hear the amazing musicality, the writing, all that. Maybe, you know what it could be? Could be, as my friends in the South would say, could be that younger generations grew up with Rugrats. And the Rugrats theme, of course, is one of the greatest TV theme songs ever written. And it's written by Mark Mothersbaugh of Devo. Boop, 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 boop. Boo, 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 boo. Maybe that's it. Maybe just a newer generation had a better introduction. Just like, you know, people reappraised Oingo Boingo after Danny Elfman started writing Oompas to every superhero movie. So anyways, back to egg punk. Already I'm just in on this whole idea. So if you don't know the lore of this channel, I didn't pay attention to music from like 2003 to like 2018. So I missed whatever the hell egg punk was. Apparently it's in opposition to chain punk, which makes sense to me. I have a hard time with punk because I don't like it when it takes itself too seriously. I think that humor is a more effective way to destroy something than anger. That's just how it seems to me. Okay, anger to me is much easier to ignore. So then I did something smart, right? Hey, listen, if Sugar Pit actually reached out to me and said, would you review my album? I can get a question in, right? So I thought it'd be interesting. What if I asked him, what does egg punk mean? Right? It might give an indication of how he feels about his own music. So this is what he says. To me, egg punk is just like a simplified, bedroomified Devo sound. Snooper is an example. He could have made that band up. Fast drum machines, angular riffs, vamping on a note riff, no chord progressions really, and chanty spoken word vocals that are very short phrases. I am so down for this development. It's interesting because Devo is a rare example of a popular punk band from America. You know, even though punk obviously was invented in America, right? MC5, Stooges, all that. Ramones, New York Dolls, all them. It's become more famous as a British thing, and maybe, if you just allow me to riff even more here, post-punk has become the domain of the British as well. And so it's nice to have some of this post-punk energy come out of America. Hey, wait a minute. Remember Cave Town? World? Cave World. Cave World by Viagra Boys? Like one of the best albums last year? That was very Devo too. I actually called that album like the Devolution of Viagra Boys, I think. And they're not British either, so there you go. Before I actually get properly into this album, I do want to take 1 second to discuss the reality of what I'm teaching. So I teach a class on French rock and hip-hop, okay? And I just basically made it through all the French hip-hop in the second half of the semester. And then I give a little bit of extra time, because when you study hip-hop in France, what you study is the margins of society and the margins of cities. Because when immigrants came into France, or when workers were invited to France, as usually was the case, there was no space in the center. You can't put anyone in the center of Paris. There have been people there since since the Romans started baths in Lutèce in 15 AD. Okay, so that's where the people are. So you move them to the outskirts of society, to the outskirts into what are called the banlieue, the suburbs of Paris. And when you study French hip hop, you're really studying the outskirts. So I do 2 lessons, one on punk and one on techno, where I talk about what's happening in the center. At the same time that all this stuff is happening on the margins of society, all this great art is being made by marginalized people, trying to make their presence known, their existence felt, their plights understood. You have people in the middle as well. And what are they up to? They're not inevitably up to something stupid or bad. Just because you have access to societal power does not mean that you are incapable of human creation. You know, that's what this channel's about. It's about finding the beauty of human creation. And sometimes that's, from the middle of Gary, Indiana, or South Central Los Angeles. But sometimes it might also just be, from a goofy-ass white guy who probably, is doing okay. That doesn't mean you don't have anything to say. And what's interesting is when you study, the example I give, by the way, is that, Willow Smith is not inherently a bad musician. To the contrary, she's a great musician, and she's been given everything. And Will Smith is a great artist. I don't know if he's a great musician. He's a great artist in many different genres, and he was given nothing. You can study both, and it's still an example of human greatness. But while I just taught this lesson on the 70s French punk, okay, we're talking bands like Stinky Toys, okay, not great. We're talking bands like Plastic Bertrand, great, a little bit campy. And then my favorite, Metal Urban. The theme that goes throughout all of these songs is consumerism, and in particular plastic. Because if you don't know, after the Second World War, there was this whole period of expansion and growth. Sorry, I'll try to cover up the reflection off my James Brown poster, but then you just get the reflection off my big-ass forehead. The lighting down here, it's rough. It's a rough downgrade from being out on my porch with the sunrise. I apologize, y'all. Anyways, the 30 Glorious Years happened from 1945 to 1975, and it was a period of great expansion and growth and employment and richness. This is where a kind of modern consumer culture popped up. This is where terms like teenager became popular, okay? Demographics, advertising, all that. And then what happened in the middle of the 70s, everybody who controlled oil was like, oh, hey, we've been undercharging y'all. Let's crank up the price by 3 times, and the entire system failed. Okay, the entire system failed. The oil crisis happened. Plastic comes from oil. Plastic also represents everything about consumer society that's good and bad. It's cheap. It's fast. It's exploitative. It will break. It will need to be replaced. It will need to be sold by somebody when it's replaced. And that person who sells that thing that needs to be replaced will make money from its sale. And they, in turn, will be able to have money to buy plastic things from somebody else. So punk of the mid-70s in France, and with Devo as well, is kind of obsessed with the plasticness of everything, with the the frailty of this whole system that we built that seems so great. It's disillusion with capitalism. It's disillusion with consumer society, which is what this album's about. See? I did it. I do a thing called the weave. So that's what this is. Like, that's what this album ends up being, largely a meditation on consumer society and the misery that it brings. And this is important, right? Because for marginalized voices, it's usually people trying to get the privilege to enter this society of consumerism, okay? Who don't even have enough money, who do not have a pot to piss in. And then music in the center is complaining about the quality and nature of the piss pot, okay? That's kind of art in a nutshell. Anyway, so I think that's what this album is. I mean, listen, you know, I don't know if capitalism, you know, when the Berlin Wall fell, that was the end of communism. I sort of feel like the Berlin Wall of capitalism fell in 2016 when we lost the election to Facebook. It sort of feels that way to me. Like that sort of feels like that could be. But okay, let's get to the album. Let's get to its themes. So when we talk about like consumerism and consumer culture and disappointment in the center, a lot of themes on this album of working. It's like, I think that's the word that's repeated the most, is working. Being productive, the grind set. You know, I have a 19-year-old son, and I hear him and his friends talking, and they sort of laugh at the manosphere, you know? It's sort of like a fun joke. And like him and my nephew will talk about the grind set and how funny it is. And it's like, oh yeah, you got to be on your grind set. And even when you're making fun of that stuff, even when you're making fun of it, it's still making its way into your brain, you know? It's still in there. Those cultural values, even if you're mocking them, still, to a certain extent, dominate in your brain. It's too much. It's too much. It's too much. And listen, I'm about to go Jordan Peterson on you, but I think about all these young men. Wait, why am I doing Sean Connery voice? I think about all these young men who are just told to work so hard all the time and to keep their rooms clean. And I just want to tell them to be connected with the glory of humanity. It makes me cry because they think that if they just work hard enough, they have a clean enough apartment that they will have some sort of meaning, but they won't. The only meaning is their connections to other people. It's not going to come through money or status. Okay? Seriously though, I could do it. I could make myself cry. Because the grind set is just a lie. It's just a lie. It's just a lie. Says the guy who's sweatily recording a video in his basement so he keeps up to at least 3 new albums a week. Hey. So tied into this whole theme of the grind set is a lot of sort of like the ways that we are manipulated and the ways we are expected to be. We're expected to be clean. There's a whole theme of cleanliness on here. Clean and working. And the other thing is when you live in this society, we live in a society. Ha ha ha, Skye, it's a joke, blah blah blah. I don't care. Go ahead. Put a meme with me as the Joker. I don't care. When you live in the society, a consumer society, we are increasingly getting our receptors blown out. Okay? Our pleasure receptors, our input receptors are getting blown out. And we have to come up with new and better ways of pleasure. New and more engaging ways. Because, you know, when my grandfather was alive, a toy was literally a hoop and a stick. That was it. And for his grandfather, they didn't have the hoop. They just had the stick, okay? And then my grandfather had the hoop and the stick. And then my dad probably had, I don't know, little tin soldiers. You know, and then I grew up with Star Wars guys. And my Shogun Godzilla back there. Still maybe the best toy ever made. But then eventually video games came in, you know. And now we have kids who have not even toys. They just have the screens and the streaming and the access to all different kinds of video games and VR headsets and all that. Like each generation, just as that small example, we just keep getting our pleasure receptors blown out. And this is that album that's about that as well. This video will probably end up being longer than the album. What can I say? I'm gonna yap. There's a Louis C.K. line. Do I know how to pronounce anybody's name? That's the question. What privilege I have of having an impossible to pronounce name, Skye. Although in France they call me Skye. everything's amazing and no one is happy. So how do you make art in our consumerist, techno-adoring hellscape, our technophile, which means love of technology? How do you make art in a technophile hellscape? Well, that's the other question of this album. Now, listen, it's great. It's all made by himself. Every single note is made by himself. I've released, I think, one of the albums I made by myself in my early 20s. So I recorded 3 albums all by myself. This was before computers, so I recorded them on 4-track. I'm not trying to be cool. If I had computers, I would have used them, but they just didn't exist. So, I mean, they existed, but, you know, the Pro Tools, whatever, that wasn't there. So, yeah. So I really relate to musicians. I don't edit, so you're just going to have to hear me clear my throat. I will look at my baby monitor. Good. She's still sleeping. So yeah, so I really appreciate that. I will say that I do hear a lot of Devo on here, but also I feel very kind of Beck-like stuff. Now listen. If you know this channel, you know I don't like Beck. I always caveat it in saying, okay, because he did release a 10 out of 10 album. Okay, Midnight Vultures is one of probably the 10 best albums of the 90s. Seriously, it's that good. Midnight Vultures is that good. And this album, this Shh, Please Don't Jinx It, has kind of a Midnight Vultures vibe to it. But I don't really like Beck, but this has like everything that I like about Beck without the stuff I don't like. All right, let's get to an example song. I'm going to give you an example song of the album. The song is called Massive. Click above Bjork and Neil Young if you want to hear the song. Okay, this great crunchy, digitally distorted AI voice. Yes, I have backed up all my memories to the metaverse, and yes, I am using the new deep learning model. I agree, it is a massive scientific breakthrough. I love this whole intro. It's the whole theme of the album, the lies of our consumer technophile society. I love the consent, and yes, we're constantly asked to give consent to things, and we do, because we want the thing, but then we give consent to things that hurt us. You know, the terms of service and agreement. The terms of service, man, if you hit no on terms of service for every time you've ever were presented it, would you not have a better life right now? Oh my God, what fake deep garbage am I cooking up in my basement? There you go. Phone's bad, kids. But you know, it's okay. I promised you I would give you the Devo song. So I now am ready to give you the Devo song to understand, because if you just put on Whip It, you're never going to get it. It's off this album. The song is called Space Junk. Go ahead, click above there. Listen to Space Junk. This is where you're going to get it. The kind of like irony. Space Junk itself is kind of a theme about just like consumer excess and people being killed by things falling out of the sky, because it's all a big lie. The bigger and more lie. The bigger and more and bigger, bigger and bigger, bigger and more. And that's what the song's about. More and bigger, and it's great, and it's gigantic, and it's massive, and all these massive things, and all these big things. How did Trump get elected? A lot of different reasons. But one of the reasons was he kept on calling stuff big. And people are stupid, and they go, big? Did he say big? Oh, man. I like big. Right? It's just, and we destroy the earth in this song because they burn down the rainforest, and then we burn out our minds, and we're just totally burned out. And musically, it's great because it starts off, and you think it's a metronome. You think it's the metronome that is on GarageBand, the little woodblock metronome. But after like 2 hits, it starts staggering. Then these hi-hats come in, and then these claps start. And it's a party. The party has started. This cool, funky bass comes in, and all of a sudden, we're just sitting here, and we're just rocking and just having a little funky, punky dance party. Not punk funk, by the way. It's not garbage. It's not punk funk garbage, but it's funky and it's punky at the same time. Eventually, the tambourine comes in on the 2 and the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Right? So that's where the tambourine comes in. What a time to be alive. I'm living a dream. Everything's clean. I'm super stimulated. The world is a machine, and I am turning into a machine. And that's how we feel. I've been to Disney a few times. I like Disney. I'm not a Disney adult, but I think Space Mountain is one of the great human creations. Like, Space Mountain is easily as impressive as the Eiffel Tower. I've been up the Eiffel Tower many times. I love the Eiffel Tower. Yeah, like Michelangelo's David, the Eiffel Tower, Space Mountain. Anyways, when I'm in Disney, what I enjoy about Disney is the feeling that I have that everything is a machine and that you are a machine to have fun. You must be there and you must serve the machine. Your job is to have fun. Anyways, fun, weird sounds in the second verse, voice going up high, talked about his latte, and then this little break here. A lot of great production details in here where it's just the hi-hat, snare, and bass drum before the outro. The world is a machine. Woo! And he's all yelling at the end, and he's screaming, and it's got that kind of punk thing. And what was it that Bluster said? You know, a certain aura that just comes through. So I'm going to go through the rest of the album a little bit quicker, a lot quicker. This is Thunderground Thursday on a Friday. I'm just checking in on you, and I want these to be quicker. But you know what? Screw it. Screw it. Because what do I give the world? I don't give the world quick. You want to see a good quick thing? Watch Bluster stuff. You want to watch a good long thing? Watch this thing. Not that more is better. Okay, opens up with the song Magic, which is weird. Magic is maybe my least favorite song on the album, even though I like it. It's a little bit heavy on the sort of tongue-in-cheek, like, I'm a wacky guy. Like, he says, magic is real, and he says it like Count Countula. I watch a lot of Sesame Street these days. Cowbells doing that octave, kind of thing. What I love here is that okay, I heard this at first. I'm like, oh, dude, you need a drummer. Because the snare fills on here are pretty rough. But it's on purpose. You listen to his drumming the rest of the album. His drumming's great. He's not really saying much, but he's saying it well. Let me work my magic. Gonna break the curse. I think, it's tied in this theme of working, very rough around the edges, winking, and, the spell is broken. The curse has been broken. And then the album really starts properly with the track Data. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop pronouncing things every possible way I possibly can. Devo. Great bass, low guitar notes. You've got the data. You've got the raw horsepower. I would like to, if you would permit me, to connect this to the album by Raw Data Feel by Everything. I think there's a nice connection there. Obviously everything's a British outfit and they're much more developed, much more established. But I think if you listen to Raw Data Feel and Data, you have the same kind of feel, like the way that we have, where like Data has become like the new oil, the new horsepower, these exaggerated vocals, this consumer madness, singing, stainless steel, Bible white teeth, triple stimulator, peaches and cream. Is that a Beck reference? Peaches and Cream is one of the good songs off of that good album by Beck. Brain chip, probiotic, creatine, 100% all natural synergy. We're also a little bit in Radiohead territory here. This kind of like blown out consumer hellscape, just spouting out catchphrases. And then the outro, make it last forever. Okay, now he says, you've got the hymns, baby. And on Lyric Genius, it says HYMNS. I don't think so. I think this is hymns, as in the male grift. There's a company called Hims that sells hair pills and boner pills and a bunch of other pills, and their advertising is very good. And it seems to me that that's what this is. Make it last forever, because their commercials are all, listen, they watch us, right? So like I'm lucky because I'm 47 years old and my hair's starting to fall out a little bit, but I have a pretty strong hairline. I've had it my whole life. And it's all just genetics. There's nothing you can do. Just nothing. There's nothing you can do. That's my commercial. Nothing you can do. Don't worry about it. Okay? Just be cool. That's it. That's all you can do. But they don't advertise to me for that. They advertise boner pills to me. Okay? Because I'm 47 and they're just doing the math. And they're thinking, maybe I don't go to the gym 3 times a week. Maybe I drink a lot. Maybe I smoke. I don't do any of those things. So, keep your cardiovascular health happy. You don't have to worry about that stuff as much. Hey, one day maybe I will need that. But the point of the story is they know how to advertise me. They know how to hit me on the spot where I go, am I a man? Am I a man? Am I a man? Or do I need to buy something to be a man? And I think that's what this is. It's a great song. And that's the data that they have on me. The data they have on me is I'm not worried about my hair. I probably stay too long on those commercials for the boner pills because there's usually like an attractive woman, and I'm a stupid animal. And I say like, oh look, there's an attractive woman on my phone. I should look at that for one more second. Oh, boner pill commercial. I better switch off, but that's too late. They've already got my data. Making a living, really tied into this whole theme, right? That's what we call working, making a living. And I think of the young men, it's sad. This cool and complicated guitar notes, simplified drum machine. While I was at the gym while I was listening to this album, as I usually am, keeping up my cardiovascular health, keeping the hymns away. And I watch TV while I, speaking of blown out receptors, I watch TV on mute. I watch a movie on mute. Whatever's on Pluto TV that seems interesting to me, I watch that on mute while listening to the album and taking my notes. Okay? I'm a mess. I'm an ADHD mess. And I'll tell you in a second the movie I was watching, but then there was this commercial for a KitchenAid coffee product where like this woman walks into a coffee shop and it's busy, and then she just starts throwing shit everywhere. Everything's just throwing around, just causing complete chaos. It really worked really well with this music. It's a true killer. It's a grave digger. It's a lifesaver. Somewhere, Mark Mothersbaugh is looking down from heaven and saying, "Hey, I'm not dead. I'm actually going on tour this summer." And Skye's thinking about going to Chicago to see me in concert. It's a long trip, but maybe he could go to some good Serbian restaurants. I don't know. Could be cool. But this is exactly in keeping. So I'm hearing some noise from upstairs. It is not the baby I'm responsible for. And that's a beautiful theme. Gravedigger, lifesaver, right? That's where we live in, right? That's the world that we live in, where we keep on trying to find things to save us time, and then they just kill us. I'm making a living. Cool, simple guitar solo. And then we get this amazing song, Jesus POV, which is catchy pop punk, little crunchy drum machine. And what's cool is you think it's going to be a cynical sort of anti-Jesus song, but it's not. Listen, he's from, I looked it up, Carbondale, Illinois, which is where Buckminster Fuller lived with his wife. There's apparently a very well-preserved Buckminster Fuller home, so I may have to go there someday in honor of my father, who was obsessed with Buckminster Fuller and ruined my adolescence by blathering at me about whatever the hell Buckminster Fuller was talking about. But still, I may want to go to Carbondale, Illinois someday. But it's a pro-Christian song. You can take my money. You can't take my mind. You can take the prejudice and leave the pride. Slap me once, I'll turn the other cheek. The one thing you can't take is my POV. It's like the good things about Jesus, because that's the thing. All this kind of consumer horse hockey that we're living in, that's not what Jesus was talking about. What is that yelling? That sounds like a cat. We don't have a cat. I really enjoy it. Goes from Jesus POV right into Sex Party, sort of an ethereal heavenly song, right into a very kind of earthly song about sex, and it's interesting because the song is on one hand, let your freak fly kind of song, which is great, very modern, it's great. Young people these days are having more sex parties, and it's probably good. It's probably good because the constraints. The constraints of monogamy and a sort of prescribed notion of how things should be. If people are exploring more of their sexuality, it's better. It's not like what I want to do or not what I would have done if I had the freedom to do so, but it's probably better that it's happening than that it's not, right? Not my thing, but I'm happy it's happening. And it's just kind of a fun, simple song. And it's funny because it's sort of sarcastic. It's sort of winking. And I think it could also be the same kind of question of like, is the sort of subculture of sex parties and a sort of new brazen sexuality, is it not more consumer questions? Is it not more a question of consumerism and like more and more burnt out receptors? So, I could go on my internet right now and see every sex act ever imagined by human beings or drawn, I could, I right over there, I got my Daft Punk standee. I bet there's Daft Punk porn. I bet that exists. I've never looked for it, but I bet it exists, More until we're at this point where the only way we can feel anything is to have a full-on sex party. Which is kind of indicated by the fact that, hey, nice stroke, Billy, and then we have a computer voice saying, should we work it? And the fact that he's using the term work to apply to sex. Work it. Let me see you. Hey, look, got Missy Elliott over there, too. No, let me work it. Let me slam down, flip it, and reverse it. Okay? I don't know. Could be all tied in. Yeah. Have we made sex into work? Pleasure receptors worn out. And then the next song is called Stimulation. Pleasure receptors worn out. I love these drums. That's the opening, lyric. There's people speaking and this drum line going. What do I need in my life to be free? Looking for more stimulation, more of these modern issues. So the movie that I was watching, since I had to take a break from the gym for 2 months, and in that time they've started the James Bond channel on Pluto, and I don't like James Bond, like in theory. Like, remember what I was talking about with the messages that get into your brain? James Bond got into my brain the way that Andrew Tate got into yours. Like the idea that that's what a man should be, you know, a gallivanting, womanizing, just slick guy, you know? Like that's who I'm supposed to be and that's who I should be. But that's not great. It hurt me. Even when I made fun of it, even when I said that's not me, it kind of hurt me. But still, The Spy Who Loved Me was on. And I haven't seen that movie in decades. And that is an absolute wild movie. So I was watching this whole scene where I was listening to this song all about stimulation. What do I need in my life to set me free? I'm smoking weed, no dreams, wax on, wax off, phone screen, white noise, sugar sweet, tunnel vision, catch me, I'm a brain dead battery, turn me on, this is what you need, give me stimulation. It's how we feel. Like we need so much stimulation just to feel anything, whether we're in sex parties or whether we're just sitting in our apartment by ourselves. And so I'm sitting here, I'm listening to this awesome stimulating music, and then I'm watching this scene where there's this battle, and James Bond, Commander Bond, he's in Commander Bond mode, played by like a 98-year-old Roger Moore. Makes me feel young watching James Bond, played by Roger Moore. And he is wearing a blue jumpsuit, and he frees all the prisoners who are wearing blue jumpsuits, and all the bad guys who took over the underwater base are wearing red jumpsuits, and they grab all the weapons, and it's a red versus blue fight, and there's so many grenades. Everyone's throwing grenades everywhere, and these explosions are happening, and people are flying forward. Give me stimulation, give me tunnel vision. And James Bond's shooting with his gun, and it looks like he doesn't know how to shoot a gun because Roger Moore's too cool for that. Oh, it's just awesome. And that's just where we are, you know? I'm right there. I'm in the give me stimulation. Great kind of spoken word radio bit there, sort of very self-aware album as well. Making friends with the cops. I have no money, I have no soul. Are those supposed to be connected? Maybe. Different levels of development, warmer sounds, double voices, fuzzy guitar sound. Again, this is like what if Beck didn't suck? God, man, what is up with me and Beck? There's a couple artists that I have kind of like a long story like that with. Like, what's up with me and Beck, really? Hint, it's personal. Baby, what you want, I ain't got. Squeezing blood from a rock, making people into gods. Baby, what you want, I ain't got. Making friends with the cops, pull the trigger, take your shot. I don't quite get this song, but I like the atmosphere it creates. Then we get to the stamp, massive, and then we get to dirty laundry, crunchy guitar notes, distorted, descending and resolving, power chords underneath, full-on pop punk. And this is that dream of cleanliness. Nope, here comes the heater back on again. Because I have 2 children under 3 years old, I have to have heat in my house. It's the dream of cleanliness. And cleanliness is one of the things that's sold most to us. You know, this dream of how clean can you be? How much product can you use? I gotta wash it off, make the water hot, now my limbs are falling off. Hey, 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 I'm doing the laundry. Hey, 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 I'm doing the laundry. When we talk about the Jordan Peterson vision of masculinity in young men, it's often centered on the idea that they're just living in filth. You know, so yeah, okay, let's do that. Let's live in filth. Yeah, let's live in filth and smoke marijuana cigarettes. Yeah, let's do that. Okay? And what the first step that he always says is to clean your room. Now listen, I'm not actually against that idea. Cleaning your room is a good idea, but it gets wrapped up into the sense of what a man is and how a man has to provide in weird conservative worldviews tied into patriarchy. So can we just keep the, hey, probably a good idea to keep your room clean and let the rest of it go? Then we get to Rockstar Fantasy, impossibly flanged guitar lead, a weak duck of a guitar tone. I just said that. Now you sit with it, buddy. It's a weak duck of a guitar tone. It's a weak duck of a guitar tone. Next time you listen to the song, you hear the guitar tone, and you tell me that's not a weak duck. It's a whole story about a guy named Richard Poinsettia who lives in Vermont, and he has this crazy fantasy. There's also a little bit of Dane Cook in his energy, you know, the kind of like handsome outsider guy where like, okay, Sugar Pitt should be more popular than he is. He should be a superstar. He really should. I don't know if there's space in our culture for him to be a superstar. I don't know. It feels like our culture only wants young women to do what he's doing, not young men. Young men, I don't know. But whoever it was in the boardroom with Phyllis at Atlantic Records is correct. Like with a little bit of proper work, this guy's a superstar, and this video is prescient, and everyone's coming back to this like 2 years from now, being like, "How did you know, Professor Skye?" So Dane Cook had that same. I had friends who would go to the Comedy Store in LA and hang out with Dane Cook way before he was famous, and just say like, "Man, he's just got it. He's so cool. He's like one of us." Then we get this chorus, Rockstar Fantasy. And I love this because it's the fantasy of being a rock star, and it's the person who wants more. And the rockstar fantasy itself is kind of a consumer society as well, but it's also an artistic society. And we see the reason why is because he's an exploited worker. Richard, it's your boss. You'll be working late tonight. You'll do it right. I can't. I've got a goodbye. That's the problem. That's the problem. He's exploited. And then we have ironic guitar solos. Guitar solos which are supposed to sound like the kind of guitar solo that someone in northern Vermont would fantasize about playing if they were in a rock band. Similar to my mini jammer. I used to collect toys that made noise, where you could reset the sound. So I had a whole series of those like Disney books with the little sounds. Back in the day, you could reset the sound by pressing the button, so you could like have like really sick jams. Like the Lion King one was super good. A shumpty shan, a squished banana, a shumpty shan, a squished banana, a shump, hakun, a shump, hakun. But this is called a mini jammer, and this is the kind of guitar solo that we hear. That kind of idea. My wife hates this thing more than anything on planet Earth. Because this is as quiet as it gets. You have to cover up the microphone. Then we get to the songs Tools of Mass Destruction. One of my favorite things about James Bond movies with Roger Moore towards the end is just how bored he is. So he's like reading a manual on how nuclear bombs work. It's very funny. It's a little more folksy. This isn't egg punk. This is a slacker anthem. This is in the realm of sort of early Weezer or pavementy stuff, you know? It's a slacker anthem. And again, slacker anthems are important in this world dominated by grindset. I'm focused on production, tools of mass destruction. Keep it moving, kick rocks. The album ends with Back to the Start, full on harmonics. Boop, 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 boop. A lot of catchy stuff here. Very upbeat song about being I'm a bug. He keeps on saying I'm a build this city. And I think that's a reference to the song by Starship, previously known as Jefferson Starship, previously known as Jefferson Airplane. We built this city on rock. A big song in the 80s. And what I want to do now is even though he's like singing falsetto and doubling up, I want to read the lyrics seriously. Without swagger, without missing tooth, without cut-off shorts and a unironic American flag shirt, and just read you these lyrics. I am a child. I am a child. Alone in my room. Trying to learn guitar. Let me build this city. I'm gonna tear it apart. I'm gonna crawl into my mother's arms and take it back to the start. Okay, that's what he's singing. Interesting. You know, kind of going backwards. Dude's probably like 21 years old. He's looking backwards. It's great. Why not? It's what you do when at every age you think this is the age where I should look back, and then eventually you're 100 and you're too old to do it. And then the album ends with a great little bit of meta commentary where he talks about where he's recording. 10:37 a.m. Thursday the 26th, 24th. Okay, so I'm actually recording at 7:41 a.m. on November 22nd. R.I.P. JFK, maybe. So it's Friday, November 22nd at 7:41 a.m. And I'm recording this. And I want it to be at least 45 minutes long. And there we go. We're almost at 45 minutes long. He talks about dragging the song out to 30 minutes because that's his contract with Atlantic. And it's very funny. And it's very funny because that's also the world that we live in on YouTube as well. You know, you got to make it 10-minute minimum on YouTube. And if you do a YouTube short, it has to be under a minute. And if you do a TikTok, it has to be over a minute if you want to get monetized. They're just pushing us around. They're just figuring out the numbers. Bigger, better. Smaller, better. The second time I watched the video, I listened to the album. I was a little bit further in the movie. And there's a beautiful scene where the character with metal teeth named Jaws is battling a shark. It rules. Give me stimulation. The lead actress, very attractive woman in the movie, turns out is played by Ringo Starr's future wife. What are you going to do, huh? World is awesome. All right, so there's my video. I hope you liked it. I don't know. I just saw before recording this, the Fantano did a review. So awesome, because this is the other thing. Man, music's tough. How do you make it in music? How do you make a living off of music? I mean, this guy's doing everything right. He's writing poppy songs. He's doing it all by himself. He's got charisma. He's got a record label behind him. He's got like smaller YouTube and social media creators backing him. He's got the biggest music YouTuber backing him. How do we get this to happen? It can't all just be Taylor Swift and, you know? All right, well, who knows? Until next time. Oh, yeah, I can check my baby monitor. All right, time to go get her up. There's the camera.